industry, but for the most part, craft beer is really bouncing back nicely, and a lot of that's because of the sort of proactive things that we've done in this state, not only for craft beer, but for wine and for distilleries. So we just want to say we appreciate all the things that the administration has done.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us, Kurt. And Governor Lamont and I are so pleased to be here to make this announcement about a tax cut. This is great news for craft breweries in the state of Connecticut. In 2020, craft brewers brought $3 billion in economic activity to our state. So I'll just say that again to let it sink in. $3 billion in economic activity. And that is because we have 120 craft breweries across our state. Some towns and cities are lucky to have multiple craft breweries. And while we have 120 right now, I always like to say that we have dozens more in the hopper. All right, that was my punchline. And the reason that that's important is because craft breweries are economic drivers and they're great employers. They employ almost 18,000 people across the state of Connecticut, and in the brewery Thomas Hooker that we're standing in now, they employ 50 people. And we are very happy about how well craft breweries have done. I will tell you that I visited a craft brewery that was very optimistic. It opened in Milford, and on the day that they opened, they sold out their entire stock of beer in one day simply by people driving up to pick up beer in March during the height of the pandemic. So we have a lot of great work to do, and we're so pleased to highlight Thomas Hooker Brewery because it's really a microcosm of the success that craft breweries across our state have been having. And I'd encourage everybody to think about visiting craft breweries this summer. I probably don't have to encourage it, but we have this amazing craft brewery trail. There's a beer trail in Connecticut, and if you want to see a list of all of them, you can go to our Department of Economic and Community Development website to do that. So the other thing that I think is important to highlight, besides the innovation and the entrepreneurship that allowed this brewery to start first in Parkville and then expand here to Bloomfield, and there are more expansion plans in the works, which I love because hopefully it's going to mean more people employed in our state. But this is also, I think, an important thing to highlight about our state budget. We had a state budget that was supported by a bipartisan group of legislators. 31 of our 35 state legislators supported it. We didn't increase taxes, and in fact, like the tax that we are highlighting today, we actually cut taxes for people in our state, and we're really, really proud of that. So with that, it's my pleasure to ask our tax commissioner, one of the most popular people in our state, Mark Boughton. That was a joke too.
Yeah, thanks. It's tough to be the tax commissioner because you don't make a lot of friends, thanks to Governor Lamont. But anyways, look, it's so exciting for this leadership team to be here, led by our governor, who had the vision to be able to put us in one of the most competitive places we can be when it comes to breweries. In particular, during this session, we cut the excise tax from 23 cents to 19 cents. In addition to that, we eliminated the sales tax for those peer-to-peer sales that are going on. So what does that mean? That means if I want to start a microbrewery, but I can't go to the big suppliers, I can come and purchase materials from here and not have to pay sales tax on it. And all of that is really a way in which to increase our economic competitiveness. And you just saw a study that came out where we moved up in the rankings thanks to Governor Lamont, to his vision, and being able to actually put out a tax cut in a year when many other states are doing just the opposite. So Governor Lamont, I want to thank you for having the vision, but also for caring about our local business people throughout this great state. And by the way, Kirk, congratulations on the vocational training you're doing here. What a tremendous contribution you're making to this community. So with that, I'm going to ask our governor to come forward and say a few words. But again, we're cutting taxes today. It's a good day in Connecticut.
That is a good day. I gotta say, you have fun here, Thomas Hooker. That's what I see. I mean, I'm looking at here, hashtag no filter, Blondale, ode to Blumpy.
I thought you were going to get the sizzling hippie.
I could dig that. So it's sort of ironic. You're named after Thomas Hooker, who was, you know, he was a Puritan minister, not a real laugh. To his credit, he was not puritanical. I was reading about Thomas Hooker. He left Massachusetts on purpose because they were too strict, came down to Hertford, named after Hertford, England, and became Hartford, Connecticut. And he was not a teetotaler. He knew how to enjoy himself, although he was dead set against drunkenness. He was clear about that. So I think there's a certain magic to Thomas Hooker here in Connecticut, and it's part of a look, if all I had was Budweiser, I wouldn't be drinking beer anymore. Craft brewed beer is just extraordinarily different, so much more fun. And you're right, Mr. Commissioner, we're cutting the taxes on this. We found out, George Washington found out the hard way. Don't put a little tax on whiskey. He did that. He was the father of our country and ended up with a whiskey rebellion. So we're going the other direction here. And I'll tell you why we're doing it. We're doing this because we're making real progress in becoming a more business-friendly state. I think you heard that. You heard that from CNBC. As Kurt said, we worked very closely with all the breweries when it came to how we consolidate the licensing, consolidate how you can sell within each other without sales tax, reduce the excise tax, not a lot, but a little, just to make us more competitive with other breweries and other beer around the region. And that's what we're trying to do, is we make sure that Connecticut is in the best position to compete. I think it's working. There's well over 100 breweries that have been created over the last 10 years or so in this state. And they're happening all over the country, but none are as good as what we got right here in Connecticut. And that's why we're really happy to be able to celebrate this on a warm day in July. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, so we have all of these experts right here, and we appreciate the exceptional media interest in this event, and happy to take any questions that anybody has.
The notice said that this was going to be a 16.7% reduction in beer tax, and what exactly? Gosh, it's been a couple of weeks. I really don't remember the specifics on this reduction.
That's you, Mark. Yeah.
It's the excise tax goes from 22 cents.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the excise tax goes from 23 cents to 19 cents. So that puts us more in line and more competitive with Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and our surrounding states, and that's why the governor had the vision to lay that out. So that's your percentage.
And it takes effect July 1st or January 1st, 2023?
I believe July 1st.
What were those numbers that you were saying in the beginning? How much the tax will be, the reduction?
It goes from 23 cents to 19 cents per gallon.
Any other questions on beer?
Governor Lamont, if you want to compare,
Yep.
like, what's your favorite kind of beer?
I think it is hashtag no filter, since that's the most popular beer of Thomas Hooker Brewing. And I'm a sheep, yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, I mean, the concerns here with this, right? I mean, I understand it's going to possibly cost the state a lot. I mean, what is your response to that?
My response is it costs the state a little bit in terms of current tax revenue, but that's nothing compared to what we can do by making sure that Thomas Hooker can grow right across the street, which is what their plan is right now. to come out with either more craft brewed beers or other a variety of beverages and expand what they want to do. At the end of the day, they'll be winners, and Connecticut will win for their success.
On the extension of the powers, you've been pretty firm about trying to bring the public along, right, to have everybody kind of be on the same page. But Connecticut today is now a bit of an outlier as far as it still is understanding. There are other states that still have given their governors extraordinary powers, but they're no longer formally under an emergency. So, did you give any consideration to a more narrowly drawn approach to whether it's to maintain certain of the orders as opposed to this blanket extension of very considerable emergency powers?
Well, we've narrowed the executive orders from 700 or 300 plus down to 10 or 11. So I think we've narrowed the scope of really what we want to do strictly in the name of public health. Broadly speaking, the emergency does help us in terms of revenues and support we get from the feds, especially when it comes to SNAP support. And but I was surprised. Just a couple days ago, there were protests outside the Capitol. You know, emergency's over, COVID is over. Well, nobody told that to COVID. And you know, today our infection rate is creeped up a little bit to 1.3. It was 0.9 yesterday. It was 0.5% just a week ago. We're still the best in the country, or one of the best in the country, but it just tells you we're not out of the woods. And I really appreciate the legislature giving me a little bit of discretion so we can respond quickly if we have to, if this Delta variant gets more dangerous.
Well, can you give the public an idea of when, what would the conditions lead you to believe that we're out of the woods? What, you know, your message to the legislature laid out your reasons for why you want to continue this, why you think you need these additional powers, but you're still not able to convey to people exactly what would trigger a decision that these states of emergencies and these emergency powers are no longer necessary.
Well, look at the facts on the ground. Infections across this country have doubled in the last 10 days, 2 weeks. Infections in the lower Midwest and those states that don't have as much vaccinations as we do are up by a factor of 10, Paul. So I think, in my mind, it's still pretty clear that we've got a little bit of work to do. It doesn't mean we're going to have to change the way we do business right now. It doesn't mean that Thomas Hooker, we're not going to be able to come in here and have a nice, cool Frosty when we want to. I think we've earned that as a state, but we may see what's around the bend, what happens in the fall. We had a flare-up last fall. Let's make sure we're prepared.
Well, that's what I was going to follow up again. That's what happened last year. We had a good summer, and then there was a second outbreak in the state. You know, when, you know, at what point do you make a decision on the next order? You know, September 30th is not that far away.
Look, I'd like to, look, here's what I hope. I hope that over the course of the next couple of months, this Delta variant turns to be aberrant. It starts going down. I hope it wakes some people up, Paul, and that 30% of the population, you know, 20% of the adults who aren't vaccinated yet. We're now over 80% of our adults, probably one of the very first in the country. That's why the Delta variant is not sticking in Connecticut the way it is in some other places. And I'd like to think that we're going to be in good shape this fall, but I also want to be ready if we're not.
The most visible and I guess most contentious restriction still in effect that deals with requiring masks for the unvaccinated, particularly students. So again, I understand conditions could change in the next 2 months, but is your current thinking that you'll defer to whatever the CDC recommendations are in their report, or will you be looking at more localized measures of some sort?
I don't know. I'll be blunt about it. I mean, you're right. The CDC was very clear, and they issued guidance just the other day, guidance, not a mandate, saying if you're unvaccinated, indoors, wear a mask. And as Paz says, that would include the vast majority of our kids K through 8. And by the same token, Canaan has virtually every one of their residents vaccinated, a few less here in Bloomfield and Hartford. So maybe there is some variability in how we enforce it or how superintendents want to use their discretion. We're going to give some pretty clear guidance on that in the next few weeks. we're still watching things because they're changing fast.
Senator Anwar, so the doctor is one of the Democrats who voted no today, and when asked about it, he said that he doesn't think there needs to be a public health emergency in order to get people vaccinated. There's other mechanisms for doing that. Can you kind of elaborate on your decision about negotiating vaccine contracts as part of your reasoning, but vaccines specifically, why there needs to be some kind of declaration?
We wanted to extend the appeals period for the evictions, through the end of this month, rather than stop, say, on July 20th. Right now, it looks in Israel. I just met with the ambassador from Israel. They're giving booster shots with Pfizer for people there because of the variant. Is that going to happen in the United States? I don't know. They're probably going to have booster shots and more immediately shots for younger kids. K through 12 years of age. What are we going to do on that? How are we going to handle it? I think you need a little bit of flexibility to be able to take care of people and make sure they're safe.
And you don't think you can make those decisions with the legislature outside of a state of declaration, emergency declaration?
It'll take a lot longer. But look, there's a process. They don't like anything I'm doing, they can veto it. They were in session since January. They had the option of vetoing anything they wanted to if they didn't think it was right. Now we have an expedited process where 8 or 10 of them can sit down and say, I don't think this is the right way to go. So I think there's still a pretty good check or balance, but I really appreciate the majority of the legislature giving us a little more discretion for a little bit longer to keep you safe.
And then I have a buzzkill question on the beer. How do you see the tax-free jiving with the message from public health officials that drinking was way up in the pandemic?
That Thomas Hooker said drinking's okay, but do it responsibly. And I think that's what Thomas Hooker's all about here at the Bruin.
There's also some concern still about, vaccine mandates for children. Obviously, you guys are still waiting. I think last week or Bristol, when we were talking to you, I believe you and the Commissioner of Public Health indicated there might be something coming imminently from CDC regarding that. Any update on when you
I think it's at least a month away, and probably when it comes to vaccines for kids, it's probably not until this fall. Obviously for high school students, they're eligible. I was surprised that Tennessee said no. You can't encourage high school kids to get vaccinated. You can't bring a mobile vaccination van to a high school. I thought that was shocking. At least give people that option.
In terms of rising positivity rates in Connecticut, what would you attribute those two most? Delta variant coming to Connecticut or the lag in vaccinations?
Well, I think the two are definitely related, but no question about it. The Delta variant is, say, twice as infectious. There's a very small pool of people, especially a very small pool of adults, but that's where the Delta variant is catching, and some of those populations much less likely to be vaccinated. So I hope this is just a reminder, those 20% of folks who aren't vaccinated, here's your chance. It's more important than ever.
Would you say adults in Connecticut should be more concerned about the Delta variant than they have previously given the rise?
I would think so. Look around the rest of the country, right, Susan?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's spreading fast. It is doubled nationwide and quadrupled in a number of these other states in 2 weeks.
And I would just say, to add to what the governor is saying, I don't want to deceive people. Yes, about 80% of our adult population has been vaccinated, yet we still have towns and cities where less than 50% of the population has been vaccinated, and that could be exceedingly dangerous, especially in vulnerable communities, and we can't forget that.
Exactly right.
Governor, you've been pretty clear you don't want to institute any vaccine mandates. Is that still your thinking at this point?
That's still my thinking. You make my life a lot easier if you just voluntarily go get vaccinated, that's for sure. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right.